Hey, welcome into a special edition of the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. I'm Trent Condon, and thanks for making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every single day. Now, for the people that are viewing us on YouTube, yes, it's going to look a little bit different here. I don't have the home studio set up, not in a hotel room like I've been over the last 4 days. No, this one is coming to you from the road. So, not going to have a whole lot of eye contact. In fact, don't plan on having any eye contact, but we'll keep our eyes on the road and the conversation flowing here today on Locked On Hawkeyes. As always, thanks for making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every single day. We're available wherever you get podcasts. You can also find us on YouTube. While you're there, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I promise we got things a little bit better for you going forward on the podcast side. Big one as we react to what we saw the national championship game, a frustrating one to no end. We'll talk about the way it went down. LSU is your national champion. Iowa, just an incredible season. So many positives, even with the frustrations here. Taking you home, taking myself home here on a Sunday night edition into Monday. This is the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast.
Are Locked On Hawkeyes, your daily podcast on the Iowa Hawkeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Trent Cotta with you on the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. Thanks for making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. Now, I'm not sure how the audio quality is going to be on this. It might be awful. Apologies if that is the case, but did want to get something out as we're looking at an arrival time, 4 a.m. I'm back in West Des Moines, so still a long drive in front of me here as we're making our way through Tulsa. Still a little over 6 hours to go before we make our way home, but wanted to talk about this game. Don't have the stat sheet in front of me, don't have the numbers. And you've been listening to us for a while. You understand that, yes, I am a numbers guy. Let's see, will this help out a little bit? Oh, yeah, you can see me there. I don't know if we need to be driving, though, with that. Let's try not to do that instead. No, where was it? Oh, yeah, don't have numbers in front of me. Really not going to get into the numbers and things. A few will pop out. But overall, obviously, just what we saw here. I want to start, though, with this. And if you've heard the podcast the last couple of days, go back and listen, remember, obviously, what we got to experience with that win against South Carolina. My daughter's in the back, getting ready to go to sleep. She's got school in the morning. It's going to be a late one for her as well. But, being able to have this experience with my 7-year-old daughter, she's in second grade, being able to do something just with the two of us, and my son as well, my wife, they're back at home and pulling down the homestead there. But to be able to experience this, my daughter's starting to get into sports a lot more. She's played basketball the last couple of years, seems to enjoy it. I'll get ready to do softball for the first time. She's done soccer, volleyball. She's tried a bunch of different sports, but something like this in the big time and having it be a women's event. We've been to men's basketball games. She's been to tons of football games, Hawkeye football games, during her time with us. But that was just different. To experience that, to see the love and joy of this team. And that's another part that needs to be talked about with this team is just the joy that this women's team played with. Not just this season, but over the last few. They're a fun group to watch, and they like playing together. It's so disappointing the way that it ended. Don't worry, we're going to get into some of the negative aspects of here, but I want to start positive because what this team gave us over the last couple of seasons and what they gave us here during the month of March, but something that we just haven't seen. Now, I talk about 1987 probably too much, right? I know our listenership. Now, there's plenty of older people that know what I'm talking about. There's plenty of people younger, though. 1987 could be 1887. They don't know the difference. And that was my youth. That was my time. That was my growth as an Iowa sports fan and becoming a Hawkeye fan and what it meant. It came during that point in time. So, yeah, do I go back in time a little bit too much? Maybe I do. Well, that team didn't even make a Final Four. Iowa, 1993 women's basketball. I remember it. I remember bits and pieces. I remember they beat Tennessee. I forgot, though, until this week that year Iowa hosted the 8, so they were the number 2 seed. They beat number one SC in the Elite Eight game that was played in Iowa City that year. Maybe just a little bit of advantage, though. Iowa ran them out of the building. I remember it, but it wasn't the same. And it wasn't for me, certainly. And the way that we've been able to build with this team and having somebody that has captured the imagination of basketball fans, not women's basketball fans, sport fans, and reading through Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and seeing stars of sport, all walks of sport, some of the biggest names in sports, some of the biggest names in media that are part of college football, basketball media, talking about Caitlin Clark and the superlatives. And I run out of them. I run out of things to say. I think my vocabulary is okay, but you run out of those superlatives because she's incredible. She is absolutely amazing at what we get to see. It was a wonderful season, and I know it stings. And the frustration level, it was growing for me. I'm a person that prides myself in trying to stay away from complaining about officiating. Difficult to do after the way this game went. There is no doubt about it. It is incredibly difficult to do. To sit there, to look at it and say that whistles didn't matter in this game, because I believe they did. Now, that's not to take away from LSU. You can say both these things can be true. You can say that the refs suck, and they suck for both teams, honestly. I mean, let's be honest here, right? They were terrible on both ways. That was a crew, that officiating crew of three was terrible. There's no two ways about it. They were absolutely awful. And because of that, you're left wondering, feeling, what if? That's what it's going to be, right? The what if. What if it wasn't fouls early on? What if they didn't crop up? What if the T didn't happen? What if there's so many of those things? LSU played great. When they came out and they shot the crap out of the ball. And when they weren't hitting their shots in the second half, then they were getting offensive rebounds. That's an incredibly talented team. Kim Mulkey is a great basketball coach. Terrible person, but great basketball coach. And her display today was an absolute embarrassment. We will get into that as well. Sour grapes, maybe a little bit. We're going to have those sour grapes when we continue here on the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. Trent Condon with you, coming to you from the road as we make our way back to Des Moines here on the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. Today's episode of the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast is brought to you by FanDuel. Now, as I'm driving, I can't read the copy here, but you know what to do. Go to FanDuel.com/LockedOn. It's your chance to get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. One more college basketball game to go. We're down to the final one on the men's side. And, of course, everything finished up with the women's side. We got NBA playoffs right around the corner, NHL, MLB. They got you covered with it all and a whole lot more at FanDuel. FanDuel.com/LockedOn. That's where you're looking. FanDuel.com/LockedOn. Your opportunity for a $1,000 no sweat bonus. Terms and conditions apply. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook sponsor of the Locked On Network. Trent Condon back with you again here from the road. This is the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. Thanks for making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every single day. A little bit weird here. You're not seeing me. You're hearing me if you're on YouTube. If you're on the podcast side, I hope that this is at least sounding okay. That is the hope. No guarantees. But we needed to talk. We'll be back to a regular schedule when I get back to town. Don't worry about that. We'll have you covered. There's a ton happening in Hawkeye sports. A recap of everything that we saw on the women's side. Men team heavily involved in the portal for spring football happening. Iowa baseball salvaging the series finale against Maryland after dropping the first two games. Gave up a big lead in the first game there. That game was played early on Friday. So a lot happening, a lot going on. And as always, we got you covered here on Locked On Hawkeyes. All right, let's get our speed back up as we've made our way through some godforsaken town. Apologies to that town. And then we got a work zone. A lot of work zones. Making our way through Oklahoma. Let's get into it. Kim Mulkey. That display by a coach was as embarrassing as I have maybe ever seen. I know this is Kim Mulkey and what she does. Leaving her as a person aside, and I made my thoughts known very clearly on that front. And there's nobody that's going to be able to dissuade me on how I think of her as a person. As a basketball coach, she is excellent. The scheme, the game plan, the recruiting, these are all things that matter, and she is excellent at that. Working officials is something that bothers me. I hate what the college men's game has turned into, where it's about the guys on the sidelines and how they work officials. The Tom Izzos, the Bo Ryans of the world, those are the kind of guys that have ruined basketball. The ugly grabbing style of defense, coupled with working officials constantly nonstop. Yes, Bobby Knight, he did those kinds of things. So we've had those characters be a part of college basketball. I just think it's been taken to an even worse level. It's not good for the sport. And that display by Kim Mulkey was nothing short of embarrassing. Crying, whining, bitching about every single call, grabbing at an official, being on the floor. In the first half of the game, she was on the floor. Steps, not head to toe over the line. No. Her full body, both feet over the line. She was 2, 3, 4 feet on the playing surface as Iowa had the basketball. And this officiating crew was so overwhelmed and so intimidated by Kim Mulkey that they did nothing to stop it. Kim Mulkey grabs at an official, pushes them away, and nothing is done. Fine. It's a national championship. Refs don't want to make that call. Okay. I hate it. I think it's garbage. And I think that refs, that crew, they were absolutely intimidated and taken away from the game they wanted to call by Kim Mulkey. But to allow that garbage to happen, that's what it was. That is garbage. For a coach to be on the floor like that during gameplay continuously is an embarrassment. It's an embarrassment to the sport. It's an embarrassment to her, though she doesn't really get embarrassed. To allow that to happen. But then on top of it, to give Caitlin Clark her fourth foul, as Iowa had finally battled back into the game. Were they going to overcome the deficit? We don't know. But to do that, when you're calling ticky-tack fouls all up and down the floor, yet you live like Kim Mulkey do that, I would already had a bench warning for being on the floor after a made bucket on some of the players at the end of the bench. And yet Kim Mulkey's allowed to do that. Garbage. Hey, if you're going to be bad, at least be consistently bad. Be consistent both ways, and they were not. It was an awful crew. There are plenty of bad calls against LSU too. They were overwhelmed by the moment. They weren't good enough. We can certainly all see that. But to allow that to happen is an embarrassment. And then to call it technical for Caitlin Clark throwing the ball behind her back a little bit too hard, come on. It's sad. It's sad that this became a huge part. And it's sad when I see national media. I see national media that maybe for the first time or for one of the few times is excited about women's college basketball, and this is the garbage that they had to watch. The amount of people that have never seen the act of Kim Mulkey, absolutely shocked at that display, and they should be. There's absolutely no way that a coach should be able to do those antics on the sideline. It's an embarrassment for a program. It's an embarrassment for her. Again, she doesn't get embarrassed. And for the sport. That was awful. Absolutely awful. Now, there's a reason it happened. They didn't call anything early. They let it go. They let it slide. And they were manipulated. That's the reality of the situation. Now, LSU played incredible. And they played the disrespect angle, and I thought it was one of the more idiotic things, but that's what Kim Mulkey does. She looks for that chip on the shoulder, and she's going to push and press, and she's going to take any little instance of somebody disrespecting her team, and she is going to take it to the nth degree. And she did it beautifully. And another reason she's a great basketball coach is the way those things are. Laughable that Iowa's game plan for South Carolina is somehow disrespectful to LSU. Yet LSU used that motivation That's what they talked about. It's unthinkable. Think about that. Think about you scouting a team, seeing what they're doing against a different team, and you take that as some kind of victimhood. That's what LSU did. It worked. Those girls were ready to go. Now, Iowa, the game plan early on, those corner threes were way too open. They weren't quick enough to get out to the corner. They came in with the zone, was not working. LSU carved them up, and then they were hitting shots. But 7 of their first 9 from downtown, they were on fire in the first half. Girl that hadn't scored in 4 tournament games, hadn't scored since the round of 32 game against Michigan. She's got 21 in the first half. 5 of 5 from 3, 7 of 7 from 4, something asinine like that. She wasn't missing. They had that component. And even with Angel Reese on the sidelines, we'll get to her in a little bit. They played well. You have to give credit to that part. And if it was simple as LSU played better, and they did. LSU outplayed Iowa, they did. Some of the ticky-tack fouls, the questionable things that were happening with Mulkey on the sideline, just makes it difficult to swallow. Sour grapes, probably. That's how I saw it from the 300 level at American Airlines Arena. So I mentioned Angel Reese. And I know there was a lot of talk after the game as the final seconds were winding down. We were getting ready to make our way as quickly as possible outside of the arena. And look at where we are right now on the road heading home. But as that was going on, I saw it. I didn't think much of it. She did a little bit earlier with about maybe a minute to go. She was pointing at her finger. Give me the ring, right? Won a championship ring. Congratulations. Here's my problem. Here's my problem with trying to make this out to be more than it is. It's an exciting moment. She's never had that moment before. She's heard a ton about Caitlin Clark. I mean, you know there was motivation there. Though, same thing as we talked about with Leah Boston the round before. You hear those kind of things from a competitor, it can get to you. And Angel Reese is somebody that wears her emotions on her sleeve, much like Caitlin Clark. And us as Hawkeye fans, we cannot enjoy Caitlin doing the John Cena, you can't see me. We can't enjoy Caitlin coming over and running into the crowd after hitting a shot against Indiana. We can't enjoy all the Caitlin things that she does, the memes, the side faces, the gestures. We can't all enjoy that. And they get all up in arms about Angel. I think absolutely. For something like this to happen, to get up in arms about it, well, we have to, not that. I know it's different. I know it's deeper. But we can't have our cake and eat it too. And that's where we are. I am on the situation. Now, just saw the groups. I haven't done real deep into it, but I was surprised to hear that there's a lot of talk about that. Listen to the post-game. There was a lot of conversation about it. Surprising. People tried to make a bigger narrative about it than it really was. Well, it looks like I'm having some connection issues on the road. I don't know what this is going to be. I don't know how this out, but hey, we give it a shot, right? We gave it a shot. We'll see what this turns out to be. We'll have a real podcast for you when we get home. We will have you covered going into Tuesday and getting ready to put a cap on things, a little deeper dive, and get ready for everything else going out in Hawkeye land. Thanks, everybody out there, for listening in. I'm Trent Condon. We'll have a little better quality next time. Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. Thanks for hanging out with me on the drive home here through Oklahoma.